Welcome to BuzzMoncton. I'm Terry, and I'm sitting here today with two of the most recognizable people in the entire province. Mr. Marshall Buttons, one of the province's great comedic minds, and Mr. Tony Delgado, the master conductor of the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra. Thanks, gentlemen, for taking the time. We're here discussing a very special and unique project that these folks are involved with. It's called Symfunny, and when I first saw or heard about this particular presentation and who was involved, I couldn't help but wonder exactly where this connection came to pass. So first of all, gentlemen, welcome to BuzzMoncton.
We're buzzed already. It's great, man. The lights, the cameras, or you got us high on media here. It's excellent.
Excellent. So Marshall, can you kind of lead into this and explain where the idea to work with the orchestra and comedy, where did that all come about?
Well, it started for me brewing in my mind some years ago as a dream. You know, can you imagine being able to share the stage with a full orchestra doing something? I was approached by the foundation of Symfunny New Brunswick to do a fundraiser for them, and which I did last spring. I did one of my shows, and while I was talking to the person on that foundation, I said, you know, what about involving some musicians? You know, and I talked about this bit that I had heard, gosh, before there was a thing called internet. Somebody had a cassette of Garrison Keillor, who was a great radio personality, public radio, Prairie Home Companion, etc., doing his Young Lutheran's Guide to the Orchestra. And it was a bit of a takeoff on the Benjamin Britten Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra. And I think, well, why couldn't we make our own New Brunswick Guide to the Orchestra? And I was just articulating that thought on the phone to the lady, and she says, oh, where's that show from? And I said, oh no, it's just something I was thinking of. And then she ended up calling me and saying we would like to work on this. And then within a day or two, I ran into our good friend Ken McLeod, who is the president of not only NBYO but the new Tuta Musica Ensemble, who we're doing this show with. And Ken said, we got this new ensemble formed, and I mentioned the idea to him, and he said, oh, we got to do this here. And then when I found out that there would be a possibility of developing the show right here in Moncton with, of course, Tony, who lives here, I knew that it was the kind of show to be done right. It couldn't just be done in a vacuum. We had to be working, as we have been, over a course of several months developing the material. And that's a long way of saying that we're making a homemade show in Moncton.
Yeah, super. So Tony, were you surprised at all at the concept of a comedy, really a comedy-themed show, and how it might translate to your orchestra? Is this something that kind of, I can't help but think this is not something that you woke up one morning thinking, I want to do that. So what was your reaction to all that?
No, this is not the typical thing that an ensemble, like and symphonic orchestra does, but that's pretty much the idea with Tuta Musica. We want to start a new ensemble that is a little bit more versatile, and we want to do a lot of different stuff. And actually, this is our very first big project, doing this with Marshall. And I've collaborated in the past with some other projects that involve comedy, but this is the very first time we do. It's all about comedy. I mean, we have the orchestra, we have good musicians, we have good music, but it's all about comedy, and the musicians of the orchestra have a very important part in it.
So what's the experience been like so far? Pretty positive?
Well, I'm having so much fun. It's a totally new experience. It demands all the kind of skills that I usually don't use, but it's been so much fun. Yeah.
And the musicians obviously have bought into the whole idea, and they're probably just on the cloud.
Yeah, as I told you, I mean, we're doing things that they usually don't do. Like you see musicians rapping or singing along things that they usually don't do on a stage. They can do that. They might be doing that on their private lives, but it's not the typical things they do on an orchestral setting.
Okay, very good. So it's an original idea of yours?
Yeah, so it would build from there, and as it turns out, that becomes that piece, the Young New Brunswickers Guide, or the New Brunswickers Guide to the Orchestra, becomes the last bit of the show. It wasn't always there, but thanks to a great suggestion from Tony, who becomes not only a a music conductor, but a great dramaturge. And a dramaturge is, the term means someone who helps a playwright develop their script. And so that, in the order of things, is the last scene. And building from there, there are about 8 different scenes. There are a couple of occasions where the orchestra gets to play somewhat unimpeded. They're playing what we'd call comic bits, and there maybe are some things going on in the screen behind them. I don't want to reveal necessarily what they are, and it doesn't involve nudity or coarse language, but it's never quite normal, if you follow me. Even the way that we start the show, you know, you don't walk into a stage full of musicians, you know, just idly tuning up on their own, oblivious to an audience. It's done more like a play, where there's a really strong beginning, and an actor enters. In this case, the musicians all enter, and they become the players, and not just players of music, but players of the play. And yeah, we call upon them to dress up in odd costumes and pretend to be monks from the Middle Ages, wandering minstrels, Baroque musicians from Lamech, New Brunswick, classical musicians right through to blues. You know, we do a sketch that is called The Evolution of Music, that takes us from the banging 2 coconuts together in a cave to rap, which is very much like banging 2 coconuts together in a cave when it boils down to it. Yeah.
So just one final question. Tony, what would be the best case scenario here with the Symfunny? Where do you see this going? If you could say, this is what I'd like for this show to do in the future, where would you like, what would you like it to happen? Where would it go?
Well, I would say, I gotta split the question in 2. What I want to happen tomorrow is people who likes comedy enjoys the music, and people who like music, classical music, enjoy the comedy we're gonna do. And then in the future, I would love to do this again. And of course, I mean, with times, I mean, the times change, so we would do different jokes and different approaches for different matters. So that's what we like.
It's written specifically for this audience at this time, but we obviously have an eye to perhaps taking it beyond the borders of Greater Moncton. The New Brunswicker's Guide to the Orchestra could certainly become the Young Canadians' Guide to the Orchestra. And just because the clarinet is big in clarinet this week, it could be big in Caledon, Ontario the next. Yeah.
Well, with the level of talent that's involved, I have no doubts that there's like some great possibilities here for future shows and future collaborations. So, Marshall, once again, thank you very much
for
your
Terry.
participation. Tony,
thank you, Terry.
A real pleasure. And thank you for joining us at BuzzMoncton. We'll see you again next time.